School's in session. Okay. So let's just start by sitting up comfortably and just being. Just just sitting, just being. And take a minute to open the eyes. Okay. So today we are talking about Kabir, great poet of Benares, the considered the most sacred city of India. Traditional name is The traditional name of Benares is Varanasi. Way back before that, it was in ancient times. It was called Kashi. This is the city that's been around forever. It's even long enough to go through a couple of names, and it has these winding streets. They're like winding alleyways, winding streets with little shops. To this day, I mean, these alleys are full of little shops. Are uh, essentially the way they've been for at least 500-600 years. And we've wandered down those alleyways, and you go around a corner, and oh, here's the silk shop, and another one, here's some little kids behind a counter selling milk, and here's a cow sitting in the middle of the alley that you have to work your way around, and suddenly someone's coming up the alley on a motorbike. And Kabir was from a family of weavers. And in those days, the weavers, and I think still largely today, the weavers were mostly Muslims. That was just the way. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I remember 10 or 20 years ago, somehow all the gas stations in the New York, New Jersey area seemed to be run by Sikhs. in their turbans. So these things happen. And as a young boy, he had this deep spiritual yearning, spiritual interest, starting to have spiritual openings, and spotted, because Varanasi is the city of spiritual masters and gurus, and again to this day, and he spotted this one guru named Ramananda, and as soon as he saw him, he knew. He had this experience. Literature is full of these, including Western literature. The maybe most famous example is Dante. We know Dante mostly as the author of the Divine Comedy, but he also wrote a book called La Vita Nuova, The New Life, which is about how one day, walking through the streets of Florence, he spotted this teenage girl, Beatrice, and just somehow through her person he saw the radiance of God. He got it. He got the samadhi. He got the illumination through her person. And when he wrote the Divine Comedy, she becomes the one who is his tour guide through the paradiso, through heaven. So young Kabir had the same kind of experience with Ramananda. He saw me, he said, and that's it. That's my man. That's my guru. I have to become his follower. But the problem was that there was, and still is, so much kind of segregation between the religions that he knew that there would be too much social pressure, and that a Hindu master would not accept a Muslim boy as his disciple. So what he did was he started stalking Ramananda, right? And saw that, in a very typical thing, every morning before sunrise, Ramananda would go down to the Ghats. You can look this up. It's spelled Ghat. And you've probably seen photos of this. This is where people come down to the river, to the Ganga, the Ganges, and every morning at sunrise, and do their purifications, their spiritual and physical purifications. So they bathe in the river, and they're sitting, meditating, chanting mantras together. It's very beautiful. And by the way, this is all on the western bank of the river. By tradition, nothing happens on the eastern bank. Except so you watch the sun rise over the eastern bank. And the Ghats are these kind of stone steps that lead down to the river where people do their morning ablutions. So the young boy Kabir observed Ramananda doing this every morning and figured out his plan. Aha. So what he did was he just pulled himself up into a little ball and hid on one of the steps of the Ghats in the path that Ramananda took every morning, so that Ramananda would, not seeing him in the pre-dawn dim light, wouldn't see him and would step on him. And so he did this, and when he stepped on the boy, he exclaimed, "Ram, Ram," right? God, God, in the name of his chosen form of God, his Ishta Devata, his chosen God. Right? So he was basically just saying, "Oh my God." And little Ramananda, little Kabir springs up and says, "That's it. You just gave me my mantra. You just initiated me. Now I'm the disciple. You're the guru, whether you like it or not." And the story is that Ramananda was so moved by the boy's spiritual sincerity and spiritual drive, he said, "Okay, I surrender. I'm going to take you on." And I love this story. To me, this is the story. This is how you do it. This is how you got to grab enlightenment by let's say by the lapels, okay? You got to, when you see your path, when you see this teacher, this book, this method, this retreat, this whatever it is, you go for it. You make it happen. If there's reasons why supposedly it's not going to work, you just ignore those. Bulldoze your way through them. but this having this dual background of the Islam and Hinduism, and having to essentially kickstart his spiritual life by ignoring the distinctions, kind of helps set the tone for Kabir, which is that he a lot of his poetry is very caustic. It's very critical of the way people would get hung up on the specifics of their path and how ours is different from yours, right? The sectarianism, because his whole spiritual path was based on making this non-sectarian leap, and all his poetry is full of images that come from Islam and come from Hinduism, and for that matter from Christianity and Judaism. And he he lived his whole life, spent most of his life sitting in a little shop in this little dark alley in Benares, weaving. He didn't write the poems down. They would come out of him spontaneously. He would sing them. He was a bhakta. His main thing was not sitting with eyes closed and meditating. It was singing the praises of the infinite in the various names of Krishna, Ram, whoever. So he would sit there weaving and singing kirtan, singing the mantras, singing the hymns, and also these poems would pour out of him. He would sing these poems, and other people would hang around and write them down. And to this day, the common people of Varanasi, Benares, still sing some of these poems. So, and let me show you a picture of the guy. Of course, we don't have photos, but here's someone's idea of what he might have looked like. I like the cosmic rays coming out of him. They're probably the most realistic part of the picture. The cosmic consciousness radiating out of him. He's very dressed up here. I mean, he was a poor weaver. He probably never had clothes that fine. But, gives us some. This is like the traditional image of Kabir. Just like we have traditional images of Jesus that are probably nothing like his historical image, but, give us, and the Buddha, for that matter, with his curly hair. The Buddha was bald, by the way. We know historically. His head was shaved. So, images are nice to have some image. Okay, let's. Before we read any questions or thoughts about any of this, the biographical background stuff. Yes. Let me give you all the ability to unmute yourselves. Yes, Yafa L.
I was just wondering, maybe I missed it, but what time period is he?
Thank you. No, I failed to say that. He is in the 15th century into the early 16th century, so late 1400s. So just around the time, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue,
Right.
initiated the genocide of the Native Americans. So while that, interestingly enough, just as that was happening, was around the time that Kabir was in his prime.
And you were saying this lovely story about how he got this Hindu teacher to teach him, even though he came from an Islam background family. How did his family, is there any information about that? Like, you would think that his family would not be happy about their boy studying with a Hindu teacher.
Yeah, I don't know specifically how much is known about that, but I know that in general, it was considered quite scandalous.
I'm sure.
And Kabir was roundly condemned by Hindus and Muslims alike, right? Because he had dared to be eclectic. Um, uh, Interestingly enough, after he died and he had attained some fame, the Hindus and the Muslims fought over his body. Both groups wanted to have the privilege of burying his body in their, the holy burying ground, and having that become the pilgrimage site for the lovers of his poetry and his devotion.
Who won?
I forget. I forget. We'll have to check that. I assume it's in Benares somewhere. Next time we go, we should visit. Okay.
Was there appreciation of his poetry while he was still alive?
Yes. 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 But my understanding is that he he continued to that yes, there was appreciation of his poetry, but he just continued to live the life of the weaver. I think then as now, poet is not a sterling career path, right? It's not something easily monetized. So he just kept weaving the cloth, weaving the garments, and weaving the words. So let's read one. Those of you who have our book here, The Enlightened Heart. This one is on page 72. Are you looking for me? I am in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours. You will not find me in stupas, nor in Indian shrine rooms, nor in synagogues, nor in cathedrals, not in masses, nor kirtans, not in legs winding around your own neck, nor in eating nothing but vegetables. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. You will find me in the tiniest house of time. Kabir says, "Student, tell me, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath." Oh, God. That's so good. Okay, who is the me, the I, the speaker in this poem? Who's speaking? Are you looking for me? Who? Yeah, Kelly.
God. Right?
We have a winner. Yes.
It's obvious.
Obvious. Yes. Yes. This is God. This is God. Who are we looking for? We're all looking for God.
Right.
Yeah. Even when we think we're looking for, whatever, a cheeseburger, we're looking for God.
Cheeseburger.
Yeah, cheeseburger. The other day, Yafa and I were out on a walk, and for some reason I started singing a song that some of you may know from the Jim Morrison version, but actually it was by Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht. Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. And then the next verse, show me the way to the next little girl. Don't ask. Right? And it's like there, right there. Where's the next one? Where's the next thrill? Where's the next thing that's going to assuage my pain? Where's the next? And it's always the next. Show me the way, right? And, oh, don't ask why. Don't ask why. Why? We don't want to let's not go into that. Let's not talk about how we're hurting until we find God, till we find the infinite. And we keep looking for it everywhere else. But there, and look at this, and so Yafa has. There's a picture when we were in Yafa. Get out of the way of Yafa. Yeah. So there's the Ganga, the Ganges in Varanasi, and you can see way in the background there are the Ghats leading down to the river.
Mm.
Thank you so much. So it could have been anywhere right along there that happened. And Yafa, if you come up with any more of those, like maybe the winding alleyways or the sun rising over the eastern
Right.
bank,
Okay.
feel. Oh no, we'd have to show that from my machine.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
but you
Okay.
know, as long as I have a background, I'll
Keep
maybe add a
keep
few.
keep us in the Ganga there. Yes. Yes, Tova.
A beautiful picture. Oh, I love it.
I know it's kind of amazing. These cows just wandering
Yeah.
around.
Wow.
Yeah. And actually, Yafa, while you're there, tell the story about what you're holding there.
Oh, well, my aunt at the time was basically dying, and so I brought a photo of her to India so that she could be in India.
Oh, how sweet.
So that she could come to the Ganga.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was still alive, so we took a picture of me with her picture to send to her. So.
Oh, sweet.
Right. And Tova, you wanted to say something?
We were together in Varanasi with Charles.
Right.
And when the group went to the Ghat, I stopped for a second in one of those stores just to look, and the group disappeared. In just a second later, in one of the turns.
Right.
And I was totally lost. I had no idea how to find them. And I started crying because I stood there, no idea where. And a man came to me and he knew that, he says, "Are you looking for the group?" They turned that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started running and found you all. And do you remember the boy that was up in that building begging for money for wood for his dying grandmother? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
He was begging us for money,
right?
Because that was the burial place. I mean, where they were burning the bodies.
Yeah.
And he was right above it, and he sat there, and supposedly the woman there was his dying grandmother, and he kept begging for money for wood for her.
Yeah, yeah, that happened on another trip. Yafa and we were there with another group, and we were led. Let me get Yafa's picture back up there. Well, we were led up into one of these little towers, and which is abandoned, and above the area where the bodies are burned, and looking down into it, it was. We don't have any photos. You're not allowed to take photos of it, but it was like looking down you were really on another planet, like looking down into Dante's Inferno or something. It was incredible. So yeah, on the other hand, you've got these charred corpses floating in the river. You've got one of the reasons that the ecological impact over the centuries of all these trees being cut down to burn the bodies has been not so good.
And the bodies polluting the river.
Yep.
It's supposed to be such a holy river.
Right. So everything's got two sides, at least. Yes, Yava.
Before you break down the poem, can you read it one more time?
Yes, absolutely. So, yeah.
Where does the poem appear?
It's on page 72.
And what book is that?
This is The Enlightened Heart.
Oh, no wonder.
Okay, wrong book. Okay.
I got The Enlightened Mind.
Enlightened Mind.
The Enlightened Mind. Yeah, that's Mitchell's.
I'll have it next week.
The companion volume. That's the book of prose. This is the book of poetry. Okay. We around here we
Sorry.
go around here we go for the heart first. But might I say, Bob, it's not lost on me that you got the mind instead. There's a lesson here, Bob. Go for the heart. Okay, so
Okay.
all right.
Okay.
How do I get back to me on here? Oh, I think I see. I got to unpin Yafa and me. Okay. So this is God speaking. This is your captain speaking. Are you looking for me? I am in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours. You will not find me in stupas, nor in Indian shrine rooms, nor in synagogues, nor in cathedrals, not in masses, nor kirtans, nor in legs winding around your own neck, nor in eating nothing but vegetables. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. You will find me in the tiniest house of time. Kabir says, "Student, tell me, what is God? He is the breath inside the breath." Okay. What are you getting from this? What are you hearing in this? First of all, if this is God speaking in the first person, if you're looking, are you looking for me? Right? And we've already determined, yeah, we're all looking for God. I'm in the next seat. So where's that? The next seat where? Yeah, Kelly?
Well, seems like, he's saying life's God.
Yeah. Life is God. Ordinary life. This moment of life. And including our fellow beloved beings here. Okay, in the next seat, the person who's in the next seat in the bus, the person who's in the next seat in the movie theater. Back when we went to movie theaters, chewing their popcorn too loud while you're trying to watch the movie and annoying you. God is there. God is there in everything that you find annoying, everything you find pleasant, everything you ignore because it's neither annoying nor pleasant. Everything you overlook. My shoulder is against yours, right? Or right now we could say, the pressure of the seat against your bottom. There's God. Just have to pay attention. You will not find me, so that's where to find God. And now we get where to not find him, which is where everyone looks for God. In stupas. Stupas are these monuments to enlightenment. I'll get to you in a second, Anna. Monuments to enlightenment. They're like obelisks or beehives, kind of. You see them all over India and Tibet and countries in that region. Usually, they contain the relics of some enlightened saint. They've got the person's hair or toenails or something, and the tradition is when you come to a stupa, you circumambulate it clockwise and chant mantras. And you're feeling the darshan, the presence of enlightenment, or that through that enlightened saint, through that stupa. So when you travel in that part of the world, you see people flocking, including us, flocking to the stupas and doing that. And here's Kabir saying, knocking all that down, all the traditional stuff. Looking for God there in the stupas, forget about it. Looking for God, the shrine rooms, forget about it. The synagogues, the cathedrals, right? So we got the Jews, we got the Christians, right? You're all missing the point here. You're all looking for God in your little box. Yeah, Anna, did you want to say something?
I don't know. I feel like somehow biased.
I can't hear you.
I'm on mute.
No, now you've muted yourself. You need to be closer or something.
Can you hear me now? No?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Strange. I feel it's like somehow it's biased. If God is everywhere, So why I cannot find God in stupas? So I feel a little bit.
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Okay, I have to see it everywhere. Why he's saying it?
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you. That was my next thought as well. Right. Um, interestingly, he does not say here. God does not say, "I am not in stupas. I am not in cathedrals." He's saying, "You will not find me there. You will not find me there." You see, he's putting the onus. Maybe the problem is not that God's not there, but that's not the optimal place for us to find God, because we think that God, because most of us think we're going to find God or find enlightenment exclusively there. You see, he's trying to knock. I think Kabir is trying to knock us out of our narrow sectarianism. And you see, in the first he has all the so-called sacred places, and then he goes into the practices that people do in those places. The Mass, right? So there we got the Christians, or kirtans, right? Which is the chanting of the mantras, which he did, right? So this is not an absolute statement. It's not an absolute condemnation. What he's saying is, don't get hung up on thinking that this is the way, that this is the place to find God. I think the thing is that if you're so focused on thinking, okay, I can only find God through, there's one exclusive turnstile. I can find God by, like he mentions, Mass. Okay, I go to Mass, I take communion, I take the wafer and the wine, and that's my portal to communing with God. It's great. But if you take the attitude, that's the only way that I or anyone else could ever have that communion, then there's a narrowing of your consciousness. And that's going to keep you from seeing God everywhere. And if you can't see God everywhere, exactly what you're saying, Anna, if you're not seeing God everywhere, then you can't really see God anywhere. That's the way I read it. So Anna, you've done something very astute here. You've picked up on the paradox. You've picked up on the apparent contradiction on the surface that forces us to dig deeper, to resolve the paradox, to find the place where it's no longer a contradiction. So thank you. That's the way you do it. Yeah, Jody?
I love how he doesn't just say, I'm everywhere, right? I love the sweetness and the intimacy of shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Right? There's just this sweet, precious intimacy about that description and how that feels.
Yeah. And that's what makes him a poet and not just a philosopher or a religious teacher or something. That's why he goes in the enlightened heart, not the enlightened mind.
I got a question.
Yes.
To follow up right on that.
Yeah.
Could you just speak? What's the part of the poem that comes before I'm in the next seat?
Are you looking for me?
Okay. And then what?
Are you looking for me? I am in the next seat. My shoulder is against yours.
There's just this sweet game of peekaboo or something.
Yes. Yeah, it's got right. It's playing hide and seek with God.
But Dean, here's what I'm, and maybe this is a place of the mind. The next seat might be referring to not the seat of where you typically sit, which is in the personal consciousness. I'm in the seat next to you. Anyway, that's that's a more of a philosophical interpretation of what's going on.
Yeah. And I, you know, I think Jodi's really got her finger on the pulse of this thing, which is the sweetness, the simplicity. I think Kabir is not going to play, you know, sophisticated philosophical tricks with us. He's here to pull the rug out from under that stuff. By the way, before I forget to mention it, I think I mentioned this last week. Oh, I mentioned it in the newsletter. You know, I occasionally narrate audiobooks. I have a little studio set up in the house. And, excuse me, by far the best audiobook narrating experience I ever had was I got to narrate an entire book of the poetry of Kabir. And there's an introduction at the beginning where I talk about his life. I don't talk. I narrate what someone else wrote about his life. And the experience of sitting in my studio, which is actually in a dark, it's a closet. It's a closed closet because clothes make great insulation, sound insulation. And just sitting there in the dark with the iPad or whatever I was using there to show the text, reading these poems, and the particular edition I had, they first give the poem or the first couple of lines in it in the original language, which I think was Hindi. And so to be able to resonate the language in his words and then the translation, something happened. And actually, if you go to audible.com and look it up, you can play the 5-minute sample of me reading this, and you can hear it kind of doesn't even sound like my voice. I mean, it just somehow Kabir, I really felt like I just slipped into this deep place of Kabir consciousness, and the voice came with me. You know, the voice is coming from this deep place that it doesn't usually. So that was really, really great.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. I'm going to listen to
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on. So you'll not find me and blah, 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 or kirtans not in. So again, kirtans is what he did. That was his main practice. So he's not, you know, it's easy to condemn the narrowness and exclusiveness of everyone else's practice. But if you're, you know, if you're as cool as Kabir, you know, you got to throw your own practice in there with everyone else's, right? And also that shows us it doesn't mean you stop doing the practice. It doesn't mean you stop taking communion or stop doing your meditation or stop, you know, chanting your kirtan or stop making your pilgrimage to Mecca and, you know, circumambulating around the Kaaba stone. You do the practice, but you transcend the practice. That's what the practice is supposed to do, bring you to the place where you transcend the practice, AKA God. So, but it's like no one's got gods in their little box, and everyone's got God in their little box. Not in masses, nor kirtans, nor not in legs winding around your own neck. So there he's talking about the hatha yogis, right? The people who think, okay, if I can, you know, master all 108 yoga asanas and do the peacock pose and all that perfectly, that's going to get me there. That'll get me enlightened. Great, God bless, do that, but don't get stuck in that. Not in eating nothing but vegetables, right? So there's again, the whole kind of yogic discipline of eating the vegetarian thing. That'll do it. The right diet will do it. Again, this always reminds me of Jesus, where, you know, people condemned him for not following an ascetic diet, for eating meat and drinking wine. And he said, yeah. Or words to that effect. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. Right? When you really look for me. Really. See, and I think maybe we have to take this line back to the line that Anna raised the point about. You will not find me here and there and there and there. Right? And maybe part of the point is that when we have our once we've chosen our favorite ritual, our favorite practice and all that, it's easy to get lazy. It's easy to think, okay, as long as I'm showing up, you know, on Sunday morning for mass or on Tuesday night for meditation or whatever it is, okay, it's all thing. But and to get lazy and not be really paying attention, not really looking when we're there and where we're everywhere else. You know, it's still essentially a do-it-yourself program. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. And again, instantly, because when we subscribe to a particular path, there's an idea of putting it on a timetable. You know, okay, if I keep meditating, eventually, somewhere, someday over the rainbow, I'll find nirvana. If you're really, you know, or if I'm really good and say my prayers, someday on a cloud after I die, you know, I'll go to heaven. Even though the founder of that religion said the kingdom of God is within you. Every time the disciple said, when's the kingdom of God coming? Can I sit on your right side when the kingdom of God comes? And he kept going, no, you've totally missed it. It's right here, and right now. When you really look for me, you will see me instantly. You will find me in the tiniest house of time. I love that. I love that. And this again is exactly the point that Jody was making. The sweetness and the intimacy of the language. We don't know the original language, but Robert Bly, great poet, who did the translation here. There's the intimate, you know, we can say, you know, like as a meditation teacher, I'm saying this all the time. Oh, you know, time, there really is no extension of time. How long does now take, so forth. And good, that's teaching. That's pretty good. But he's not just a teacher, he's a poet. By using that image of a house, the tiniest house of time. How tiny is that? As tiny as you can think, tinier than that. Tinier than that. And then he invokes himself. Kabir says, tell me what is God. He is the breath inside the breath. Tell me about that. Someone tell me about that line. He is the breath inside the... Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Maybe we don't have to talk about it. We can feel it. Maybe that's an instruction almost. We can take that as a meditation. You just, you know, if you really pay attention to one breath, that really kind of brings you right here. But what's the breath inside the breath? Yeah, someone had their hand up? Yeah, Lula? Go ahead.
Got it. The way I interpret this particular segment is he is talking about breaking all the barriers as far as the religion is concerned from any walk of life, because at any religion we are taught, and it has been engraved in our heads, that we have to believe in certain aspect of that particular religion, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
And because we are taught we have to believe, therefore we follow a certain rules and regulations of that particular religion.
Mm-hmm.
So he's telling us to forget about everything that you have learned. You're not going to find God in any form or shape as far as the teaching and believing the religion is concerned. But you will find me in the tiniest time, which he's talking about only in a flash. Because time and space does not exist. It's something that we have to use in order to be able to conversate. So it's within a flash, you will find God, which is in reality in your breath.
Yeah.
It takes that much time for you to see and realize God within yourself with one breath.
Yeah. Rupert Spira has a wonderful formulation where he says, time is what eternity looks like when it's filtered through the mind.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But anyone specifically? But yeah, Jody.
I was breathing just now, trying to feel it.
There you go.
And
can I just say to everyone, including myself, that's the way you do it. Actually breathe. Actually look. Don't just think. Don't just talk. I have a habit of thinking and talking a lot, as many of us do. So thank you, Jody, for reminding us of how we do this thing. Please proceed. Please continue.
So my mind jumped in and hijacked my breath for and my mind was kind of going to this place of, oh, it's all very expansive, and there was something beyond, infinitely bigger than my breath. And I realized, no, that's not what he said. It's not the breath outside the breath, it's the breath inside the breath. So I let that thought go. And then there was this image of, what are those? Are they Russian? Those dolls inside the dolls inside the doll?
Yeah, Russian dolls.
And my breath came to me in that way. It was still this infinite, but rather than this infinite, it was this infinite.
Nice.
I don't know if I have more words for it than that.
Yeah. It's the breath inside the breath, inside the breath, inside the breath. ... Yeah. And also, and that's kind of the particular flavor of how you experienced that just now. And then also, I would say, it's neither inside nor outside. It's neither out, nor in. It's, there's, you may remember this, Jody, from the Dzogchen teachings. There's this expression, not outside, not inside, not both, not either. Just wipe away all that. Wipe away all our concepts of space and time, and then what's left. Yeah, go ahead.
And there it is.
And there it is. Yes, exactly. I want to move on because we're getting close to closing time, and I want to quickly do one more poem, and then clearly we're going to come back to Kabir for at least one more Sunday because it's just so delicious. Let's look at the one, if you're on the book on page 71. Inside this clay jar, there are meadows and groves and the one who made them. Inside this jar, there are 7 oceans and innumerable stars, acid to test gold and a patient appraiser of jewels. Inside this jar, the music of eternity, and a spring flows from the source of all waters. Kabir says, "Listen, friend, my beloved master lives inside." Okay, you getting something from that? You getting a feeling of that? Inside this clay jar. And is there something special about that clay jar? Is this the special Holy Grail clay jar? Is this the one jar of all jars that contains the universe and no other jars do? No. Okay. Good. See, we're all now, because it's the end of the hour, we're all sophisticated enough not to fall for that. Right? Some people, some religionists go through their whole lives falling for different forms of that. The essence, the sacred, the divine is just in this grail, just in this place, just in this thing, and not in the others. Right? So inside this clay jar, what's special about that jar? It's the jar we happen to be looking at in the moment. There are meadows and groves, and the one with a capital O, the one who made them. right? So we know it's meadows, it's groves, it's mountains, it's oceans, dot, 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 and the infinite, the God that's the source of them all. Everything is everywhere. It's got to be. Inside this jar, there are 7 oceans and innumerable stars, right? So we're looking down into the depths. We're looking up into the heights. Acid to test gold. Okay, so I presume that this is referring to, when you took your stuff to the next thing, a patient appraiser of jewels. When you're taking, like, hey, I want to know, this person's trying to sell me this gold ring. Is this really gold? So they've got some way of, you test it with acid, and if it's, something fake, the acid will eat it away, and if it's gold, it won't. I guess something like that. A patient appraiser of jewels. So we could have anything here. We could have a doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs, anything. But what we have here is the jewel sales, the jewel vendor, the vendor of that which is precious, and the ability to appraise it, to see its preciousness, to see, oh yeah, this is the real thing. This is the real thing. Because, of course, the real jewel, the real precious essence, of course, is that God is the Holy Spirit, is the Brahman, which is everywhere. The real, in the kind of the key mantra of Tibetan Buddhism, it's Om Mani Padme Hum, right? Om, the jewel, the Mani is the jewel, the precious essence, the precious jewel of life, the thing we're all looking for, the good stuff. The Mani, where is it? It's in the Padme, in the lotus. The jewel is in the lotus. Where's the lotus? The lotus grows on the surface of the lakes and spreads as far as the eye can see. So the Mani, the jewel, is hidden in the lotus. Where's the lotus? Everywhere, everything. A patient appraiser of jewels. Inside this jar, the music of eternity. This reminds me a little bit of when you're kids, listening to the ocean, holding a seashell up to your ear to hear the ocean roar. Yeah, and turns out we were right. The ocean is in there. The ocean, the mountains, the deserts, God. Inside this jar, the music of eternity, and a spring flows from the source of all waters. Right? The source of all waters, the source of all fire, earth, planets, the source of sources. Kabir says, listen, friend, my beloved master lives inside. Right? You're looking for your guru? You're looking for the master, looking for the guru? Look no further. But look deeper. Yafa, I see you have one more photo for us before we go.
Yes, and actually, I wanted to also share, I found something that feels like it could have been Kabir, which, whoops, let me.
Well, can we see that other one for a little longer?
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Such a nice view of the gods.
Sorry, I did that by accident. Yeah, it's too many things all at once here. But this one, I just thought was, I don't know if you could see that one. Can you see? Oh, you
I'm seeing your face, which is beautiful.
That. I don't know if you can all see that, but it's disciples with their master on the banks of the Ganges there.
Yeah, on the Ghats.
On the Ghats.
Yeah.
And then this is the Ghats right there.
Right.
So, and those buildings, of course, have been there forever and ever and ever.
Yeah. And so you can imagine, there's morning time, everyone coming down for their ablutions.
Right. So the women, the men, everybody, and quite beautiful. And another one.
Yeah. But if you're a Westerner, you don't go in the water there. Because there are germs there that you got to be born in India to deal with. We went we did go into the Ganga, but way upstream from there, upstream of Rishikesh, further north where it's closer to its source in the Himalayas, where it's purer.
Yeah. So that was his hometown.
And by the way, some of these buildings that look like little palaces are, because all the little local kings all over India had to have their local palace in whatever region they ruled over, and also have their Benares palace there on the banks of the Ganga. Very cool. Thank you. Okay, so next Sunday, more Kabir. May all sentient beings look inside that jar and see that everything they were looking for is right there all along. May all beings be happy. May all conflict and distress instantly evaporate. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dean.